Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Fire Up Michigan. My name is Scott Morganroth, your host, Motor City Madmouth. Have a good show tonight, and we're going to be talking about Jim Harbaugh, and we're also going to evaluate the TJ Hockenson trade again. And if you want to know more about it, stick around. We figure the next 30 minutes or so will be awfully fast. Saluting us to my right is Smoking Jeremy B. Welcome back, Jeremy.
Glad to be back, Scott.
And my longtime partner, George Eichhorn. Welcome
Good to be back on. I appreciate the offer. And hey, let's have a great show tonight, guys.
Amen.
Amen there. And of course, the cap I'm wearing is the South Florida Tribune. And obviously, that's the publication that I own. What we do is we do an awful lot of written content as well as the show as well. And before I get to the task at hand here, just so you know, Fire Up Michigan can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, or wherever you get your podcasts. Also, please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube for the South Florida Tribune. We're striving for 1,000 subscribers. So, folks, please subscribe. We would very much appreciate it. You get all the notifications for the streams that we do, as well as the incredible work we're doing on the road. I can tell you right now that when this stretch is over with me and my other half, I will have been on the road. We will have been on the road 7 straight weekends. So, and of course, we have spring training coming up too. So, not going to go there. But anyways, let's talk about the business at hand. And our lead story today is Jim Harbaugh returning to the University of Michigan for 2023. All right. With that said, Smoke and Jeremy B, give us an explanation and opinion why you believe this is going to happen.
Why I believed it was going to happen is his agent. Jim Harbaugh never came out himself and said that he was taking an NFL job. His agent said if Harbaugh gets offered an NFL job, he'll take it. The news came out yesterday that Denver was the most likely one because they were enamored with their phone interview with him. And then today, boom, the deal's done. Amazing how fast the president of University of Michigan got that done because the AD didn't want to do it.
Well, it's amazingly enough that another guy in the chat room by the name of Will Vogel agrees with you. He said he had a strong feeling that he was coming back. He's an awesome coach. Yeah, you got that right, Will. I mean, 13-1 the last 2 seasons, 2 college football playoff appearances, beating Ohio State twice. Pretty hard to argue Will Vogel's point. All right, George.
13-2 last year, right? Or 12-2?
Yes. That's right.
Yeah, they lost twice last year, once this year. The first time a Michigan team ever went 13-0 or won 13 games, whatever way you want to look at it. Mm-hmm. I don't know what this little game is he's playing, guys, every year, but I'm sick of it already. He made a commitment to this university a year ago, and to me, it sounded like pretty sincere that he wasn't going to start looking again. And all this craziness happens. I guess the Carolina job wasn't offered to him at all. I mean, he had an informal chat, they said, with the owner, and then, like you alluded to, Jeremy, he had that Zoom interview for a couple hours with Denver. And I, quite frankly, thought he was going to take the Denver job. But I think, as you and I were talking off air, the three of us were, that man in East Lansing has a little bit to do with this. That heavy contract that one Mel Tucker got, right?
Right, because that happened exactly a week after he got that extension with Michigan last year. And then all of a sudden, Mel Tucker gets $9.75 million a year. And he's like, wait a minute. Didn't I just beat this guy?
I believe that is definitely linked. He wants to be right at the top of the Big Ten coaches, if not in the top tier of the whole nation, being paid as a head coach. But Tucker,
I think he's going to get that $10 million because I think Saban makes like 12. Kirby Smart's probably going to get a raise after winning back-to-back natties.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then who's the other one that has a big contract? Clemson guy.
Oh, Dabo Swinney.
Swinney. He's got the other big contract.
What about our buddy at LSU? Doesn't he have a big one?
He does, but
I don't think it's that big. I didn't do any research.
I think he was overpaid. Because,
Brian Kelly?
Yeah, because what did LSU do this year? Well, that's right. They beat Alabama.
Let me candidly mention why I probably messed up the loss totals, because I forgot that one year that Michigan lost to Michigan State. So it's
Yeah.
hard for me to
Right.
really acknowledge Sparty. So if I'm going to have that thing called dementia, okay, and let me explain how I spell it, okay. So a lot of you folks out there that are watching, there's another thing that I created on my own called dementia, DUMBMENTIA, dumb, DUMB, mentia, not dementia like the one that we all use.
Yeah.
So,
Will Vogel
I'm not
says,
a
I
college
think,
student, but nevertheless, he obviously got the best of Sparty this year. So I just thought it was pretty
yeah,
interesting how we talk about the fact that nevertheless, no matter how you slice it, he's won 26 games in 2 years, getting to the college football playoff, obviously in back-to-back years. That's the whole narrative.
Yeah. Yep.
And I was predicting with my wife the other day that I had a feeling that Harbaugh was going to come back. I never took the Charlotte opening seriously. I really never did. I personally think that Steve Wilkes has an in for it, but the more people that they interview for that particular job, like was it John the
Ben
Lions?
Johnson.
Yeah,
Ben Johnson, the Lions offense
I heard that he
coordinator.
won.
And right now, according to Vegas, because they do the odds for who's getting the jobs, he's at 40% likely to get the job in Carolina. But I've said, think about this. Does a first-year offensive coordinator want to jump straight to a head coach this year? I think he's going to turn the job down because he's not going to a premier destination.
Right.
The NFC South also is kind of a meh division.
You know what, Jeremy? You know what you just said? Okay. That's a first-class understatement. Okay. Just remember what I said, Jeremy, and use your 2 ears on this in your headsets, whatever. A first-class understatement. That's all I got to say. So any closing, you know what? Let's face the reality. I have no problem with Jim Harbaugh getting as much money as he could. I knew that he would always flirt with the NFL to get more money. Remember, the guy got his pay cut a couple of years ago, so it's not like he felt there was a whole lot of loyalty when they wanted to cut his paycheck by himself. So now he's just making up for what he lost. And in the end, he's the best coach the Michigan Wolverines have had in years. So I think all the leverage really is with Jim Harbaugh. I don't care about no final.
Yeah, it's a match made in heaven, so to speak. I mean, it's a great combination having him there. I don't know what's going on between him and the athletic director, Ward Manuel. Whatever it is, I hope they can smooth it out because those two got to work together for years to come. Ward is very young, and he's going to be here for a while. So all I can say is that this guy Ono, the new president, he's a big sports nut. He is really into athletics, and I think it'll be a good advantage for Michigan that they've got a president that cares about sports.
I'll tell you what's wrong with Ward Manuel. This is easy, okay? And I encourage any participation in the comments. Will Vogel obviously is appreciated. He says he thinks that Harbaugh is going to be with Michigan for years to come. Yeah, as long as you keep paying him, I guess he will. But the reality with Ward Manuel is this. Ward was under the impression we're going to flirt with nobody. But you know what? Ward, welcome to Business 101. He wouldn't flirt with anybody. He's entitled to capitalize on his earnings. Anytime you tell your athletic director, okay, that I'm not going to flirt, but then you do it a year later, there might be a little of a bit of trust factor involved there. I mean, like anything else, but the bottom line is, Ward, this guy's winning and he's earning. So as far as I'm concerned, the guy.
All I got to say about that is the only way Harbaugh wouldn't have did this is if he'd have lost to MSU again this year.
Right.
Because that's why he goes on, hey, I just beat the guy that got paid more than me.
Well,
why ain't I making more than him?
Well, that's a good point. So all you did was literally, Jeremy, you backed up my point anyway. He beat Mel Tucker, and obviously the Michigan State Spartans obviously had a down year. That embarrassment in Ann Arbor didn't help either. So, but what Harbaugh had to do is he had to get this done. Otherwise, he's going to continue to lose more and more players. And the only way that he can go ahead and continue to build on what he's done, like his quarterback and some of the other ones, they're coming back, don't worry. But they had to do it quickly. I never took the Charlotte one seriously. The Denver one I did, but the more Sean Payton's name began to surface, the more I think Harbaugh knew, you know what, these are the two that might offer me more money. He can thank Sean Payton for getting a raise, is what he can think, because I think ultimately Sean Payton will be roaming the sidelines in the Mile High City. That's just a prediction.
Could very well be.
And Walmart money and those people, they're looking to win big, and they're trying to get over that thing called Russell Wilson. So if they think anybody can rehabilitate him, they definitely believe Sean Payton can do it. So
yeah, whatever Russell was cooking this year was inedible.
Yeah, that's right.
But here's the deal, Jeremy. You had Nathaniel Hackett, okay, a first-time head coach. So I think the general manager, George Patton, will be under fire in Denver if they don't get this hire right. But I even heard recently, because I read up on a lot of stuff during the course of the day, that while Patton will have some input, it's actually the owner that's going to make the call. So it'll be interesting how they change the dynamic. And we know those Walmart people have deep pockets. They're going to pay whatever they want.
Isn't John Elway still there?
Yeah, in the background is what he is. But he
got demoted to vice president of operations.
Okay.
I don't know. Did he get demoted, or did he just simply have enough? I don't really buy the demoted stuff, Jeremy. That's just me.
Well, all I know is they didn't want him picking another quarterback in the draft.
Yeah,
let's get back to
Jeremy, I think the whole emphasis here, and I completely appreciate where you're coming from on this, is that when I never thought that the Charlotte opening was really serious with Jim Harbaugh. He was just talking pretty. And what he did learn, though, and this will segue to our next topic, by the way, is he learned from Minnesota you don't take a job for granted and think you have it. When you don't have it, then you have your head between your legs. And I think in the end result here for Jim was, yeah, I'm getting more money than Mel Tucker, and I deserve it and done a whole lot better. And Jeremy, let me point out, you've made a lot of excellent points here tonight. But the reality of the situation is Jim Harbaugh won his way back into getting raises, okay? And Michigan wouldn't know what to do without him. I don't know if they even have a successor in place. No, and when he left, I thought Josh Gattis would have been a logical choice anyway. So, so I think Jim learned from the Minnesota situation, listened to Charlotte, and I think with Sean Payton being the most likely candidate for me to go ahead and succeed in Denver, he would. I never thought that Sean Payton would ever go to the Chargers. And I saw the Chargers in the Jacksonville game when Brandon Staley was under fire on social media as well. But the Spanos don't have enough money for him, and I think Denver is where he winds up.
I actually think he'll end up with the Chargers. I think Brandon Staley's going to be fired after that epic collapse.
Well, I thought about that after the game, okay? And then but they had to cool down a day or so. Now, for the latest reports I've heard, okay, is that Staley, they're probably going to bring him back, but he has to make a lot of coaching changes to his staff. That's usually where you go before you get fired. So with that said, I think we've spoken a lot about Harbaugh. So we will segue from the Minnesota Vikings possibly wanting Harbaugh a year ago to now. How does the trade of TJ Hockenson look to the Minnesota Vikings after they were ousted by the New York Giants during Super Wildcard Weekend? Jeremy, if there's anybody that knows more about this Hockenson trade, I don't know him, so it's you that does. So go ahead and take the bull by the horn here, Jeremy, and let's break this down a little bit so we can comment on it, and then we'll go to our parting shots.
Well, look at what he did. He had a crap ton of yards and no touchdowns again. He is not the red zone threat he was supposed to be as a tight end. In the 2 red zone passes he had in the last 3 weeks, he dropped.
Right.
So there's a reason why I gave him the nickname TJ Droppinson.
Right.
But he had a chance to seal that. All he had to do was cut up instead of keep running across the front on that 3-yard pass from Kirk Cousins, which was a mistake in the first place. You need 8 yards. You throw 8 yards.
Right.
But throwing it to Hockenson at 3 yards, and instead of cutting up, instead of running towards the linebacker coming at him, if he'd have cut to the right, he might have got that first down. But he kept running straight across. He was trying to get to the sideline up and out. And I think Detroit did win the trade. Thanks for backing me up on that, Will Vocal, because look at it this way. We get an extra 2nd-round pick this year. We get an extra 3rd-round pick next year. Yes, they lost in the playoffs. Who'd have thunk it? Kirk Cousins losing a playoff game with the Vikings.
Right.
But anyways, so that stays a 4th-round pick this year and a 4th-round pick next year. This year was the conditional pick. If they'd have won a game, didn't matter what round, if they won one game, it would have became a 5th-round pick. But in all actuality, we didn't have a 4th-round pick last year.
Right.
And we still did pretty good in the draft.
Yeah, well, I'll give you 2 words for that, and you guys already know. Brad Holmes.
Yep.
This guy's a shrewd talent evaluator. He really is. So, you know what? If there's any general manager that'll cash in on that chip, it'll be Brad Holmes. Yeah, I agree. I mean, let's face reality. When I saw the Vikings get ousted in the playoffs yesterday, and I'm thinking, wow, this is unreal. But you know what? I was watching Get Up today on ESPN, and Rex Ryan said, you know what? He expects the Vikings to go downhill very quickly. And he quickly complimented the Detroit Lions. Okay. And he's been riding Detroit the last couple of weeks after they defeated Green Bay. And then obviously this weekend when Minnesota went out early. And there's a analyst, former coach that knows a lot more than Rex Ryan. And Rex is really suited for TV, does a phenomenal job. This guy, yeah, but he's drinking the Lions Kool-Aid. And when Minnesota went down, and let's face it, all the losses that they had some embarrassing losses during the course of the year, didn't they? And the Lions did, like you say, Jeremy, better without TJ Hockenson. So, you know, I actually picked the Giants to defeat.
We were 1-6 with Hockenson, 8-2 without him. More production from the two UDFAs and the drafted guy in the 6th round than we got out of Hockenson for 8 games.
And you know what? There's 2 words for those kinds of guys. You ready? Hidden gems.
Yep.
Hidden gems, period. I mean, What else do I have to say about that?
I mean, Kirby Joseph, James Houston, James Mitchell, Rodrigo. I mean, that sums it up right there. That's hidden gems. And Chase Lucas, before he got hurt and had to miss the rest of the season, he was looking like he was going to be our next slot corner.
Right. Well, let's face the reality. When George and I were covering the draft, we were younger. You used to have, 12 to 18 rounds, George, a long time ago.
Oh, yeah.
Before your time, pal. I mean,
but I watched the draft when it was 12 to 18.
Kidding with you, ball rack. Yeah. I may not be kidding with you. I don't know what to do with you anymore. Just keep you. All I need to do is keep you busy. That's good enough. Yeah. But no, really, in all fairness, Jeremy, 12, 18 rounds, and now you're down to 7 with undrafted free agents. I think a lot of times what'll happen is undrafted free agents will get more money than the ones that are drafted later because they can pick their destination. One of my favorite undrafted free agents actually with the Lions is a guy by the name of Brandon Powell. And I remember what he did up in Tampa when he had some touchdowns for kickoff.
He's now with the Rams.
Right. No, I know. But he's from my neck of the woods. I believe he's from Deerfield Beach, Florida, played for Deerfield Beach High School. But I believe, and that's one of the better local schools around here. So, no, again, hidden gems to me are what they are. And there's no question that the Lions fortified their tight end area because they let Hockenson go. They didn't have to add to his contract and were able to find suitable replacements, which, well, if you don't believe in this Brad Holmes regime now, then something seriously wrong because this guy has done well. There are lots of people that when they made the Goff Stafford trade, they could just make it a one-on-one shot. And that would have been suitable value. And as it turns out, it was suitable. But then Brad Holmes was getting draft choices. And now you have a top 10 pick to complement your other one along with other ones. This Brad Holmes, to me, is a genius. And
so far, so good.
Yeah, he's a draft and trade genius when it comes to trading pick for picks. I mean, look at what he did to Minnesota. As far as I'm concerned, he fleeced them.
Oh, I know. Well, look what he did to the Rams. He fleeced them too. There'll be a point when Brad Holmes is going to be to a point where
now think about this.
Trade with this guy because he may fleece us next. But you know what? If you're wearing Honolulu blue,
there was one other trade for Stafford that was offered.
Yeah, wasn't it the one in Carolina?
Carolina Panthers offered Teddy Bridgewater and a first and a third. That was it. It was a first and a third that season for Matt Stafford. We'd have had Teddy Bridgewater. Do you think we'd be right where we're at right now if we had Teddy Bridgewater these last 2 years?
Well, what do you think? What do you think the logical answer is? I'm going to tell you anyways. Absolutely not. I love Teddy Two Gloves, but you know what? He hasn't been good since he got hurt in that playoff game for Minnesota. Yeah, good
point. He's been an average to a backup style quarterback ever since because he doesn't have the mobility he had.
Yeah, injury problems have hurt. No, are you kidding? Jared Goff to me, just because Sean McVay doesn't like you, albeit he took you to a Super Bowl, you just lost.
To me, look, right after the Super Bowl, McVay says, "Yeah, I handled the Goff trade badly."
Well, that's fine.
Well, too late.
That's
now.
Understatement of the year.
Too late now, buddy.
I sit there and goes, if you look at the numbers, Goff might have had the exact same numbers with less interceptions with that team
Right.
in LA. Everybody's like, what do you mean? I said, he had the exact same completion percentage and less interceptions in Detroit that year.
No, I know with you.
Yeah,
I
I know.
tell you what, the Lions may not like bandits with Goff. All Jared Goff needed was somebody to believe in him. That's
Right.
it.
And that's
All
it.
you need is somebody to be
That
positive and believe in you. Albeit year number one didn't go as good because they have Anthony Lynn as the offensive coordinator. That didn't
and
work.
the worst wide receiver core in the league.
Well, yeah, that didn't help either. But then all of a sudden you bring on obviously the new offensive coordinator. I keep getting his
Ben Johnson.
Ben Johnson. Okay, well, it's a popular name. So if it's not Simmons, we got Johnson, we got Smith, we got all these fun
Yeah.
names.
Well,
I'm kidding. Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know for sure, but I think TJ Hockenson is probably still very happy with the trade. I'm sure he lost a lot of friends and teammates here in Detroit, but he's he probably is happy where he's at. He didn't seem to fit in here. I presume there's some sort of clubhouse stuff that might have went on too that we were not aware of.
Right.
And they may not want to make public, but I'm only speculating on that.
They did make one thing public.
What was that?
They did try to negotiate an extension with him because he was already under contract for next year with the 5th-year option.
Right.
Okay.
And he'd have made $9.5 million next year. They weren't going to pay him more than $9.5 million a year, and he wanted top 3 tight end money. He wanted to be paid like Kittle and Kelsey. He wasn't putting up the production they do.
Yeah, I did hear about that. That's true.
So,
yeah, that was
when you're asking for
contract
$15 million a year, you better be putting up close to double-digit touchdowns.
Yeah.
Good
No,
point.
I agree there. And his blocking ability, as we discussed on this show before, just was not there.
Right.
And the end of the year, he moved up 4 spots. So he ended up on PFF between the O-linemen and tight ends. He was the 111th run blocking offensive lineman tight end combined out of 120.
Not good at all.
Yeah, well, the bottom line is he's in Minnesota. It's from Iowa anyway, so it's like he's in the Midwest.
He's closer to home.
Yeah.
Right. Meanwhile, if you get anything out of this Hockenson thing, folks that are out there, all I can tell you is Brad Holmes fleeced the Minnesota Vikings, and it's not the first time he did it because you got Jamison Williams out of them too, and we'll see how he progresses. So you have 2 divisional trades, and when it's all said and done, the Lions could conceivably look like bandits with both of them. Thank you very much, Brad Holmes.
You want to hear something crazy about last year's draft for you real quick?
Sure.
Last year, I said prior to the draft, I said, if we don't make any moves, at 2, we'll take Aiden Hutchinson because Jacksonville's going to do craps and bill things and draft the wrong guy. And I'm sorry, you compare apples to oranges, Trayvon Walker to Aiden Hutchinson, there's no comparison.
Well, you're talking to a guy like me who obviously covers the Jaguars. So how do you expect?
I wouldn't bury the guy yet.
But yet, no, I'm not burying him because it takes 3 years to prove a guy's a bust.
Well,
but I'm just saying for first-year production, there is no comparison.
Well,
then you go, I said at 32, the pick should be Louis Sine, the safety out of Georgia. And at 34, if you're picking there, you should look at the wide receiver out of South Dakota State, Christian Watson. You know what's funny? The Vikings took Sine at 32, and the Packers traded up with the Vikings and got Christian Watson at 34. So the exact numbers I said, that's where those players went, and I said it 2 weeks before the draft.
See, here's the thing here, Smoking, okay? You put me in a tough situation. Now you really have. Because, I do cover the Jacksonville Jaguars being in Florida. And this team, what the game we saw on Saturday night, God, it was unreal.
It was more about do you know what that looked like? It looked like Jim Caldwell took over the Chargers in the second half of that game. They refused to use one of the best running backs in the league in Austin Eckler. When you've got the lead, you should be controlling the time of possession and letting that guy run the ball down Jacksonville throats because they weren't stopping him.
All right, but listen, let me complete my thought, okay?
Okay.
I'm covering the Jaguars, and I've talked to Peterson and Trevor. They like Trayvon Walker. In their mind, they got an SEC caliber player who, by the way, played at TIAA Bank Stadium with the Georgia Bulldogs, so it's not like they didn't see him. And to me, that worked out well because I thought initially when Jacksonville got the number 1 pick, they were going to take Hutchinson. But the longer the draft process went on with Trent Baalke as well as Doug Peterson when he got involved. They were happy with the pick, and they still are. So don't tell them this guy's going to be a bust.
Yeah.
But here's
I didn't say he's going to be a bust. That's not what I said.
Listen to me. Let me finish, okay? I'm just telling you, they're satisfied with that pick. They love this guy. But the thing that happened to work out is you had a win-win situation, okay? And it reminds me of the fact that, all right, well, Aiden Hutchinson only slipped to the Detroit Lions, and the worst thing that could ever happen to him anyways, which is where he wanted to go. So it's one of those things that happened to work out. George and I can tell you right now that when the Pistons there was Mark Aguirre and Isaiah Thomas, and the Dallas Mavericks opted to take Mark Aguirre, and Isaiah Thomas fell to number 2. We all know how that worked out, right, George?
Yeah, we do.
So just because you slide one spot, it depends on what the team's needs are at the time and the familiarity factor. So I think draft situation, Jeremy, was a win-win for both sides. And I love Aiden Hutchinson. Are you kidding? I just hope the Lions are able to keep him long-term.
He had a fantastic year. No question about
he did. I just hope that they keep
the guy that they're saying is going to be the defensive rookie of the year, Sauce Gardner. Yes, he had 7 pass breakups. Yes, he has 2 interceptions. Aiden Hutchinson has 9.5 sacks, 3 interceptions, and 2 fumble recoveries. So he's personally responsible for 5 turnovers to the Lions' favor.
But you know what? If you were to look at Aiden Hutchinson, you think he's going to care about it? You know what'll end up happening, Jeremy? And I've been around this game a whole lot longer than you. Don't take it the wrong way. He's going to use that as motivation to get one next year is what he's going to do because he's mad.
He's still wait a minute. He's still going to get the team Mel Farr Award, which is best rookie.
Yep.
So Aiden will still get the Mel Farr Award from the club.
Right.
And so, I mean, it's not like he's not going to go home empty-handed.
No, he won't. But
I agree with you, Scott. I don't think in the big scheme of things, it's going to matter to Aiden Hutchinson.
Right. No, he don't care.
If he doesn't get it from the league.
Let me tell you.
Because here in a year or two, when he fully develops, he's going to end up being a DPOY, which is Defensive Player of the Year.
He's already gotten a couple of the Rookies of the Month awards I saw.
Yeah, he got 3 of them, didn't he?
2 or 3.
Yeah.
Hey, George, there's nothing more that drives a player than being overlooked for an award and then prove everybody wrong and have more motivation to get it the next year. So,
sure.
Hey, you're giving fuel for this guy, and this guy got a lot of it. I mean, hey, listen, if a team's going to go up there after 90 seconds, okay, I'm turning in my draft card, and the NFL is angry at you because you could have dragged it out a little longer because you didn't get those extra commercials, and they don't care. I mean, it is what it is. So, no, I'm with you.
Yeah.
If you're overlooked, okay, for an accolade, for an award, don't you think with the competitive spirit that these guys have?
Oh yeah, I said I feel sorry for quarterbacks next year.
Motivation.
Oh God.
Yeah, feel sorry for the other guys. That's right.
Oh, come on. Hey, listen, don't tell me, George, that a guy by the name of Tom Brady who's playing tonight against the Dallas Cowboys, 6th round, 199th overall, right? Okay, wasn't angry at the rest of them, and all he did is win how many Super Bowls? Like 7. So if you want to say about prove me wrong,
but that one everybody turned him down, including the team that drafted him, New England.
But my point is, George, it's all about the chip on your shoulder, proving people wrong. Let's not get into explaining it. And when you're an athlete, you're competitive and you're mad. And when you're overlooked for some, and I've always thought the most overrated award in sports anyway is the Heisman Trophy winner, because if you don't win it, a lot of guys turn out better. You don't have the only thing you don't have with the Heisman Trophy is you don't have a chance to vote for that award every year, but it doesn't mean you're going to be a surefire Hall of Famer in the NFL.
Yeah.
So decide that.
There have been plenty of professional flameouts and the Heisman winners, of course.
So meanwhile, what we're doing tonight, folks, we're only going to give you 2 topics tonight, and everybody gets a parting shot. So with that said, Jeremy, lead off.
Well, there is somebody else in Denver that's in play for coaching staff, and that is our own defensive coordinator. Aaron Glenn is going to be interviewed by Denver. Right. And if Sean Payton has his way, because he mentioned it on Fox in Week 18, the 2 quarterbacks he'd love to work with is Kyler Murray and Justin Herbert. So stick that in your craw and think about that, because Arizona is already talking about giving up a 1st-round pick to talk to him.
Okay.
And because they fired Cliff Kingsbury, as they should have 2 years ago. But that being said, I think Brandon Staley is on the hot seat quietly in the background. And if they get a chance to talk to Sean Payton, I wouldn't be surprised if Brandon Staley's fired right after the Super Bowl.
Well, all right. Well, you know what? We'll just monitor that situation, is all I can say. And we'll certainly bring it up at a later date if indeed that situation comes to fruition. All right, George, give me a parting shot, please.
Well, I'm going to steal a little bit of the thunder. My friend Sean Windsor, the fine columnist for the Detroit Free Press, had a really good column on Sunday. And what the Detroit Lions did to capture the imagination of the fans in Detroit and the whole state of Michigan took a hell of a lot of pressure off our other losers in town, meaning the Pistons, the Red Wings, and the Tigers. Because think about it, as Sean wrote, if we were just sitting back and moping through another losing Lions season, and then we had those other three teams that we were worried about, at least we didn't even have to think about them. Now, I say that obviously not so much on the Red Wings, because the Red Wings have come out with some life this early part of the season under third-year GM Steve Yzerman. Right. But I agree with you, what you wrote, Sean. It was a great column. And what they did is they captured the imagination of our sports faithful. And I'm not forgetting about the Michigan Wolverines, of course, too, going to the December 31st National Collegiate Playoff game, semifinal, only to lose to TCU. But the Lions did capture the imagination. No, there's not going to be a parade down Woodward Avenue. Sorry, Jeremy.
No, they don't deserve one. They don't deserve one.
And then his colleague Dave Burkett. Remember this story, Dave? This is what you said back in August, Dave. So you weren't that far off, but not 7-10.
9-8.
Jeremy, what were you?
I said between 7 and 10 wins.
Yes, I remember that.
And so 9 wins.
So he wasn't that far off, Dave Burkett.
Nope.
But the moral of the story is the Lions did 1 or 2 better. Congratulations to the Lions, and that's my nickel's worth today, Scott.
All right, well, I'll give you a different parting shot. Number one, it was great to see the Detroit Red Wings defeat the Toronto Maple Leafs 4-1 on national TV. ESPN had the game on Thursday night. Here's the thing. The NHL needs the Red Wings to generate ratings. It's an original 6 team that's won 11 Stanley Cups. What can I tell you? I mean, let's face reality. We all know that when you've won 11 championships and you're such a very, very historic organization that's done well, when the Red Wings are good, the NHL is better for it. That's all there is to it. I don't care about some of these other teams out there. Not going to go out there and needle any franchises at all. But when you have an original 6 team on National Hockey Night, that is gold. As long as the networks, TNT and ESPN know that, and the NHL does know it, you'll never go wrong. Because let's face reality, while they've expanded to other markets around the country, there's nothing better than an original 6 team on there.
Amen.
Amen. So with that said, okay, and I'll go to everybody in just a moment here, but I enjoyed doing this show with you guys here. Obviously, I will point out one other thing that I mentioned in case you're just joining us. Fire Up Michigan can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, or wherever you get your podcasts. So, think about it. If you want to listen locally, that way you can do that. Otherwise, please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for 1,000 subscribers. So please check the box and subscribe. We do a lot of stuff on the road. We do a lot of stuff via streaming, and we're going to continue to add more and more platforms over the coming weeks. We're planning to upgrade our streaming package in the next week or two. I just happen to have this log jam right now that by the end of the next 2 weeks, my other half, Candy Evling, and I will have spent 3 weeks in Jacksonville, 2 in Wisconsin, and now Daytona Beach is on the docket. We'll be covering the Rolex 24 as well. So been really busy. And of course, by the way, in case you want to know, spring training is not very far away either. So So
3 weeks away?
I don't know. I'm trying not to think about it. I just want to get to Daytona first. Okay.
Yeah, I nailed it.
Also, a programming note too that we talked about tonight. We're going to be airing 2 episodes of Fire Up Wisconsin on Monday night, and of course, the Fire Up Michigan show will appear every week. So we have a lot of fans out in the Wisconsin area. I know the core people that will be hosting the show will be myself, Jeremy, George, and Candy Ebling. Anybody else that we bring on will bring on. But right now, that's something that we arrived at. We feel it's a good show. It's a good market to be a part of. And I want to just let you guys know out there, guys and gals, that we'll have some Wisconsin stuff, because Wisconsin's a great little sports town too. Small market, but when you produce the Bucks and the Green Bay Packers, and of course Wisconsin Badgers are awfully good, and the Milwaukee Brewers. So just a programming note. With that said, Jeremy, go ahead and let everybody know they can hold you.
Well, number one, you can find me on the SouthFloridaTribune.com underneath the little 3-bar heading where it says Motor City Tribune and the list of authors to read my editorials about the Lions. You can also find me on Kneecap Biting with Smoke and Jeremy B on YouTube. Please go and like, subscribe, and share. In less than 11 and a half months, I have gotten 213 subscribers.
Keep up the good work.
And also, you can find me on Fire Up Michigan and on Twitter at Smoke and Jeremy B.
And now, of course, Jeremy's going to be a part of the Fire Up Wisconsin show as well. So,
Ray.
Yeah, no, it's listen, last week's edition of Fire Up.
Can I be the anti guy?
I don't know.
Oh, come on.
I don't know, but I can tell you right now before we turn it over to George, though, I almost felt like last week's Fire Up Michigan show could have classified either way because we were talking about the Packers and Rodgers. But then when I saw the opportunity, the chemistry amongst the 4 of us, and if we had another one,
can I add one more thing before we get to George when you're done there?
Well, go ahead.
I want to say Aaron Rodgers threw 12 picks all season. 3 of them, 25% with the Kirby Joseph.
And we'll go, just to let you know, there is no other show tonight. This is something we're going to be working on over the next week or two. So, but I'm sure a lot of people want to know that. So, Fire Up Michigan and Fire Up Wisconsin will be a doubleheader starting right away. So, thanks for bringing that up. And so I clarify. All right, George, you have a book among other things.
I have a book. About Detroit sports broadcasting history with greats like Ray Lane and Ernie Harwell, George Kell, and Bruce Martin, Bud Lynch, and of course the great Ty Tyson. And Scott's in the book as well with Muhammad Ali and Jimmy Connors. And it's a great book. It's an easy to read book. A lot of pictures, a lot of short stories about these guys that made their name in Detroit sports broadcasting history. There's a link to obtain the book on the South Florida Tribune website. My column, just like Jeremy's, is under the Motor City Tribune. You can find my articles, and we have a link to the book there. You can reach me at SNG Sports 99 on Twitter or at gicorn@yahoo.com. I'm also on this show every Monday night, plus on the Sports Exchange. And Scott and I go back some 45. How many years, Scott?
43. That's all.
43. Okay. The days of WXYZ and the Cameron Sports Talk show. But hey, the Sports Exchange never will end. It's a great story and it's a great show. And we're so proud to keep it up here on the South Florida Tribune website as well.
Yeah, great mention of that too, George. Sports Exchange on Wednesday nights. You and I are going to do our own version, a condensed version on our own as well. Again, we're trying to sort out the programming about what we're doing with additional shows, so those announcements will be made. But yeah, George, I couldn't think of a better right-hand man to have than you. Obviously, you've been with me the whole time, and as long as the man upstairs allows us to keep doing this, we're going to keep doing it. So, and when you add people along the lines like Smoke and Jeremy, as well as JB Ellis and a lot of the other people at Sideline Sports, it's even a good thing as well. With that said, I've already given you the information on how the show can be heard and watched. So once again, please subscribe to the South Florida Tribune so we can go ahead and hit that 1,000 mark. You can reach us on Twitter as well, South Florida Tribune at Tribune South. Go to our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. If you want to email us suggestions, go for it, southfloridatribune@gmail.com. If I feel some of those comments are really worthwhile, I won't hesitate in a heartbeat to go out there and invite you on a show as well. So, folks, any way you want to participate, just reach out to us. And we've been more than happy to bring on new people as well. If I feel that you're really productive one time, you never know, you could land on here in any of the shows. We have a lot of shows out there as well. So there's a niche for everybody. All we need to do is sit there and pay attention, participate any way you want. I'm always looking for new talent. and I'll continue to look for it. So with that said, enjoy this episode of Fire Up Michigan. Doubleheader will be coming up very soon. Fire Up Wisconsin and Fire Up Michigan. And please pay attention to our other shows as we announce, and being a subscriber will allow you to hopefully do that as well. So with that said, on behalf of Smoke and Jeremy Balrek and George Eichhorn, my name is Scott Morgan, Roth Motor City Madmouth. Thank you for joining us on this edition of Fire Up Michigan. Also want to thank Will Vogel for his participation in the chat room as well, and for those other individuals that come in there and comment later on. So God bless everybody. Take care, and we will see you next Monday. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.